Yeah, no, it's a little too try hard. All right, Binance. Yeah, so like there's a bunch of features basically I'm thinking of that are like pretty easy that will help, and then there's a bunch of ones I want to like add to it. But let me just get my stream up here. So I am streaming now, and if you take a look at the Discord channel, actually, if you scroll up a little bit, yeah. Oh no, it's like farther up. Here, I'll find it for you. This video has been removed by the user. Shit, why? Okay. Drop this in. Oh, is it not displaying my actual screen right now? Okay. Yeah, but am I not sharing my like browser now? Did it not update? Oh, maybe the OBS thing turned off now. It's like, no, it says it's streaming right now. Why is it offline? I see that too. Live stream offline. But the thing says it is online. Start streaming. Why isn't this working? One waiting. Sometimes it takes a minute for like launch. Oh, it is? Okay. It's still showing that mirrored effect though, huh? Alright, yeah, so it's like a 5-second delay here. Okay. Do you see like me logging into Binance now? Okay, cool. So I'm just gonna log in here, just so you can kind of see like what I'm dealing with on the market. I think that like yeah, eventually I want all of the features you just mentioned, but I think that that's like 6 months out, and like I need $100,000. Yeah, I'm not really trying to do that either. I'm trying to like disseminate this to this thing here, this thing on the right. No, this is the interface I built. So it's meant to be like an overlay, so you kind of like position it here. The sizing is still a little off, but yeah, so the idea here is like you can start trading, so it'd be like start session, and it'll lock in your current price, and then any trade you make, it'll show basically the difference. So you can see like, oh, this is built for people that are day trading, so it's like you can actually track your progress in real time. Anytime you buy something or sell something, like it pops up here, so you can see your recent transactions. Because right now, in order to see that, I have to go, it's just like really annoying here. So if I go to the exchange itself, okay. So I have to go to like my 24-hour history here, and that's super annoying. I can also search by a specific symbol here. So I could be like, oh, I want to see, you know, what I've done with Strat over the past 24 hours. So I can like search for that. And that will show me all my Strat transactions. So I do like BTC, I can see that there's a ton more, right? So like you can do this all through the website interfaces, but the website bugs a lot. It's really slow. And I think I can just do a better job of their UI. So that's step one, right? That's step one. It's basically like a real-time trading window. I can still take a look at the graphs here, because the graphs I don't want to try to rebuild. But I can actually perform all the actions through here. Now the second step is adding like the actual tools here. So let me minimize this as make this smaller. So I'm building all of these tools so that I can actually perform all of these actions. Basically, this says like use 25% of my balance and buy like at the current market price. This says use 25% of my balance and buy at a specific price, right? I can also sell at a specific price. I can also add a stop limit. This is meant to protect. So like let's say I bought at 240 and I said if it fell below 2347, right? I definitely want to sell. So what you do is you set up a stop limit. It's like when the stop is when it gets this price, then go ahead and place an order into the order book for whatever other price, and that's your limit price. You can also set up buys. Now the problem is once you create a stop limit or limit order, that basically ties up your balance, right? So let's say I place a buy limit for BTC for 0.1 BTC. I now have 0.5 BTC to actually invest, right? 0.1 of that BTC is no longer accessible to me. And that's a really big problem because let's say I set up a limit. I think the price is going to go up to 24550, and I set up my limit and I walk away from my computer. Well, what happens if the price goes down? I can't set both a limit and stop limit. But with this tool, I could do that on the back end. So I can say, all right, if the price goes below 10% of its current value, I definitely want to sell off all my holdings, right? And if the price goes above 10%, well, okay, let's create a trailing stop limit. This is kind of the final feature I'll mention to you. I want to be able to like capture my gains here. So let's say I bought right here and the price then shoots up to here. Well, I don't want to have to come back and check my computer. I'm like, okay, well, the system has detected I've had a 5% gain. That's great. We want to preserve that 5% gain. So set a 1% stop limit below that. So if it, let's say it gets up to here, we're like, okay, well, we want to keep seeing if it'll go up. But if it comes down to here, just a little bit, like if we get a little bit of a dip, let's sell that off and actually realize our gain here. So these very basic tools don't exist on the exchanges yet, and that's why I think like this tool actually be useful for people, kind of like right away. But kind of the next step after that, because I think I'll be able to finish these features this week, is to say like, okay, well, let me pull this up. So this is kind of where the actual, this is the first step of the automation trading bot, and then like what you were talking about is like next level, right? That's like, my God, that would be amazing if I could get to that point. But as a little bit simpler here as a starting place. So one of the big ways I figure out whether or not I should buy is using breakout indicators. So what I'll do here is I'll set this to like the 10-hour candlestick. So each one of these candlesticks represents 10 minutes here. And I'll basically do a little bit of technical analysis. So I'll say like, well, I have a bearish line here, but we actually had a pennant coming up from this point to this point, right? And I'll set up one more line here. So I have a pretty clear triangle here, and it actually looks like it might break out. So if it crosses over this line here, we have a possible breakout. Now, another way you could read this would be like a flag pattern here. So you could say like, I don't really believe this given that I have a full bearish trend here, right? Like this bearish trend really scares me. So I'm not sure that we actually have a breakout. So what I'll actually do is I'll set my alert here, and Coinergy has like a way to do this. It'll actually send you an email. So I'll say alert me when it gets to this price. I'm pretty sure a breakout is going to occur at this point. And like that's great. So like auto buy, but also like when it auto buys, I don't want it to get tricked. So sometimes I'll just auto buy and I'll buy into a bad market. Like I should have bought, for example, like right here, right? So the pump has already happened and I've already missed that. But when that alert occurs, I have like literally seconds to make that decision. I often make the wrong decision. So it'd be great. Basically, that decision is made on some indicators. So let me show you these indicators here. So there's a MACD, which we could absolutely evaluate on the back end here. The MACD lurks like this. Let me show you an example. So let me show you the formatting here on this. So when this MACD line crosses, so let me say, I actually think buying XRP might be actually amazing right now. I'm going to buy some XRP. I'm going to buy some XRP. So I'm going to do market. Let's say I'm going to buy 1,000 XRP. So actually, do you see my screen right now that I switched? Okay. So what's happening right now is I can actually see the volume occurring in real time here. So if there's a ton of volume at one specific spot here, it's like lagging a little bit, but I think it's just OBS. I can see that there's a ton of volume here at the 0.10 marker. It's way more volume here than it is in the 0.11 marker, right? So I actually believe that the price is going to rise here, if that makes sense. Now, I'm only looking at this at a high level. It would be super cool if I could also have the system like evaluate in real time, like, oh, well, there's a huge resistance point at the 1.022 marker. So we actually feel like this is going to go up. This is like basically one identifier I can use. So yeah, I bought a little bit of XRP here. I bought at 0.10369. It's actually going down slightly, but sometimes you just have to kind of wait for it for a second here. Let me grab the 1 minute marker here. So it's slightly down here. But, you know, basically, like if I were doing real-time trading, I would basically see that, you know, I don't have a true double top here. This is slightly above. This might actually be a double top. Double top as it comes up again, and then it generally drops after. It's a pretty well-known market indicator. Most, yeah, they all are, right? Because like this has existed for years in the stock market itself, right? So I do believe, like, it's really easy to find these indicators. Basically, there's really a ton of documentation, but a lot of these indicators tend to be like self-fulfilling prophecies. So because people know that these indicators exist, if you set up a system to bet based on those indicators, I think that that system would do very well because like people expect them, so they buy into it. Like I'm talking about it right now. I'm like, oh, double top, like that's definitely a thing. And then the biggest piece of basically buying strategy I found is always buy into a bullish market, never buy into a bearish market, right? It's just like, only if you're longing, right? It's just like not worth the effort to try to find that turnaround point because there's so many altcoins. You're not constrained, and the altcoins move so quickly that you're not constrained. You don't have to like force yourself to like find positions basically in a given day. You should look for like the open positions, in my opinion. So that's kind of my spiel. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. One sec. No, it's mine. Oh, you mean the Binance? The black overlay is mine, or like I'm not. Yeah. Yeah, you can see all of your current holdings here. How much you have of each thing. I need to redesign this UI. This dropdown is really fucking awful. And it also will show you all of your recent market transactions. Because right now, like, if you're on the trading window, you have to like jump over to your trade history and have that window open like simultaneously. So this abstracts that away. This is like Strat BTC coin pairings. This is EOS BTC coin pairings. Oh, so like this is Bitcoin, right? And I'm buying against XRP. That's the coin pairing. So I'm buying XRP with Bitcoin. Think of like XRP USD, right? You can buy like USD BTC as a coin pairing, right? Yeah. Oh, it's just like it's a conversion between these two coins. It's saying XRP is worth this many Bitcoin. Because Bitcoin is like no, Bitcoin is basically like the US dollar, right? Everything ties to the BTC, right? So I can look at different like there's technically some more, right? So this is all BTC's coin pairings, right? MOD is a coin with BTC, CTR with BTC, GVT with BTC. Ethereum is also a pretty big coin. Maybe you've heard of that one. It has its own set of coin pairings here. And then BNB also has its own. And then so does USDT. US dollar tether is that term. What other questions do you have? Okay. So you can understand like how I feel like, you know, a trading bot can very easily be deployed to this market. Go to what? Oh yeah, so you can change the candlestick lengths. So this is each candlestick represents 5 minutes. This is 15 minutes for each candlestick. Like each one of these lines here represents 15 minutes. And that's what the price did. So in this case, the price started at the top here. It went down. Technically during the session, the price fell all the way down to the bottom of this wick, but the actual closing price was the candle itself. So the price opened here on the next one, and then it rose to here. Yes. No, volume is at the bottom here. This is volume, these markers down here. At the bottom here. So we can see there was a ton of sell volume here, a ton of buy volume here. Then you can also stretch it out. This is like a 1 day time horizon. This is what's happened during the course of the day. This is the 1 week time horizon. Each one of these candles represents a full week of time. That's pretty cool. Look at that flag. This is such a clear flag. So if we get above the 0.168, we have a breakout. What? What are you laughing? Oh. I mean, like I have access to like a day trading group, and this is all anyone talks about in this group. And like the signals are like there are people that prescribe only to breakout patterns for their trading, real-time trading. And like basically these people have won consistently. Like that's like what's, you know, people in the group basically have determined. Yeah, I do feel like well anyway. Yeah, and then there's like other indicators. So let me just show you one more here, like RSI. So RSI is pretty cool here when this loads for you. Change the color here a bit. So there's like no reason I think I should have to be like reading these charts in real time, right? Like it should just tell me like the system here. There should be like a list of indicators. I think I kind of want to get your feedback on this. And it should be like, oh, you have a positive indicator or negative. I mean, it's useful to look at the charts because you can kind of like look at large data at a time. But in that exact moment you're buying, you just want to know like, does everything line up or no, right? In that case, yeah. So basically, that would be where the fine tuning on the system would come in my opinion, right? So you'd have to say like, well, if these two indicators come back conflicting, yeah, you'd have to like assign them a relative strength score or something, right? That'd be an easy way to do it, I think, on an API. Does that make sense? Or okay. So can you explain what you're thinking about in terms of modeling to me, though? I don't quite understand that. I mean, I would do something like highest correlation indicators to altcoin price or something. I could do like research like that for sure. Um, like, and then basically test that myself. Be like, so I understand what you're saying. So like you're saying pick 2 or 3 indicators as a starting place because each time you add one, it gets like a lot more difficult. Mm-hmm. 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 Yeah, I'm thinking volume will be something I trade on quite a bit. Volume will be one of the first ones. Um, and then I'll do research basically for the other one. Okay. So you're saying 3 is a lot even for you and you're doing it at like a much bigger level. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it does. How hard do you think identifying patterns would be? I think that would be something I'd be even more interested in because like sometimes I'll bet only on the pattern itself, and I do quite well with that generally. I would like to add volume as maybe my second one, but the pattern itself, Basically, like in this case, so I have a pennant pattern here. I would like it to understand that a pennant has formed. So I guess I could just do that based on price increase over a specific period of time to kind of map that out. And then pick that top price and then basically set my alert on that automatically in the system. Would that make sense to you? Because like right now, I see such a clear flag to myself. Like this is the run up here. The new buy price should be right here. And I should be able to go to bed understanding that if it breaks out of this point, we're in a bullish run and I want the system to take over, right? Yeah. You want like points of contact generally, but like here, I'll show you quickly the. Um, yeah, because like the patterns themselves are just very. Oh, I've never heard of the term vector, so I'll definitely have to look into that. I know what it means, but I've never heard it in terms of like this. So, yeah, most of these patterns are like. So this is a pennant pattern here, right? This is a cup with handle. This is an ascending triangle. This is a triple bottom here. This is a descending triangle. This is a bearish pattern. So this is you're looking for the breakout here. So basically, if it breaks out past this, we have a positive. But since it broke out below the triangle, we know that it's a bearish signal. So these breakouts here, that's what we're looking for breakouts. So we have an inverse head and shoulders. So if you have a head and shoulders going the other way, that's a bearish signal. This is actually a bullish one. So you need like a margin of error basically on these, but in my opinion, you should. What? A breakout? A breakout here is like the price is going to go past like its previous boundaries. So let's say. Yeah, so this is a bearish breakout. So you could short this stock if you wanted to. Yeah, but I only really do longs. Cool. Yeah, this is a bearish breakout. A breakout doesn't mean a positive or a negative thing. It just means that it's breaking through the resistance or support lines. So we say this top line is a resistance line. It's met resistance here. It couldn't push through that. The bottom is a support line. It's supporting the price. So the 6 here is a bullish breakout because it's breaking past the previous line of resistance. And what like I would need the system to do is be able to draw this neckline and basically understand that this inverse head and shoulders is forming. Sure. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so like 10 there. That's that double top I was talking about, right? Basically, if you get a high point and then it comes down, it gets close to that high point again, or it doesn't go above the high point, right? You have a bearish signal there. So that should be really easy to write into code, I think. Well, not easy, but. Vince, you crack me up. I'm so sorry. I don't even know your real name. You really entertained me. I don't know. Most people piss me off at knots. Like one of the few people I've kept on my. I don't know. Actually, I take that back. All right. So, what were you thinking? You were thinking I could do this all with triangles. So I should look into what triangle. Like, what would be the search term I could use to start this? So what is this? Just like pattern matching data? Sure. Sorry. Yes, sorry. I have a billion questions. Yeah, I'll Google. Yeah. Oh, go research later. Give me a sec. Well, one sec. Let me get my Google Doc. One sec. Because you're gonna get ahead, and then I'm gonna be scrambling to type, and I'm gonna be really sad. So just 2 seconds. Okay. Recent what? Okay. Yep. Ascending triangle. Okay. Got it. The, okay. So basically, you figure out what the current price is, and then you figure out within the timeline I put, let's say it's 10 minutes, what is the high price and what is the low price in that timeline, and what is my current price relative to that. Yes, they are. They are. So, but the pattern itself, like, so the timeline you put it on dictates what pattern you're betting on, or timeline you're betting on. So, if you're taking a look at a 10-minute pattern, that trade occurs really fast. That's like a 1 to 10 minute trade, depending on how long you let it run up, right? How long the bullish pattern basically continues. Sometimes you get like really nice run ups. Sometimes it'll only happen for 10, 20 seconds. When you're taking a look at 1 or 2 hour time horizons, right, like an hour time horizon, you can make bets on, like, oh, I think over the course of the week, this is a very bullish. I try not to do that so much because the crypto market shifts so much overnight that it's really dangerous, in my opinion, to make like assumptions about the market over, like, say 12 hours. I even think that's aggressive. I think like I try to trade on like 4 to 6 hour horizons, and basically what I try to do is I try to figure out if the market is bullish or bearish. And sometimes when it's super bearish, I just won't bet at all. Like today, I shouldn't have made that bet on XRP. I only lost a little bit, but I know right now in the back of my head, all of the markets are down. So like I'm not margin trading, right? I'm not shorting stocks. So like that's a pretty clear indicator. That would be another indicator. Like, is this bullish? Are all markets bullish? If they're not, if they're mostly bearish, don't even get involved in these things, right? Like you can just tell the bot to chill out. Um, yeah, but that was a really long way to answer your question. Sorry. Mm-hmm. Hmm. And you could probably do everything on percentages, right? Because like you'd have to say like, oh, I had four inflection points, but they were all 30% below the high I had over this period. Therefore, like I have a cup with handle, right? Okay. No, I failed that. But I'll learn math like if I can actually have a proper use for it here. So I'll figure it out. Yes. No, this is them just kind of. I mean, it's like a support line or a resistance line. They're just trying to show the lines like where, yeah, it's like patterns, just pattern lines, markup lines. Hmm. So you would have to determine what the slope rate was here to actually identify the dependent. You want to identify the pole. So like once you have a certain slope percent or whatever slope value, you could basically see that's my pole. Choose the high point, and then that becomes like the line in which you then look for the breakout, basically, right? Yeah, there's yeah 1, 2, 3. So it's the middle one you're talking about, right? There's three on the top blue line, so it's the first one you want me to start with, the leftmost. Yeah, okay. Yeah, yeah. That's a certain distance you want. Why do we care about the distance between those bottom inflection points? Oh, this would be the angle. You wouldn't. I see. Because you want to be able to draw both the bottom and top of your triangle here, right? So okay. So I totally this is actually really amazing because I can totally solve for all these problems. So I just need top and bottom inflection points, and that would be a good starting place, maybe. And then I could hit you up in like a week or two and kind of ask, because I also understand the slopes. What I'm not sure basically how to do is convert all those inflection points into the patterns themselves. But you think that would be the good first step is get the inflection points, and then doing the pattern matching would be possible on top of the inflections. Hmm. Okay. Yeah, this is all solvable. Yeah, to me this is just like you write some math functions, right? And you just have this like data piping in like every 30, every, let's say you make an API call every 3 seconds, right? So you just like keep every time you get new data and you just pass it through these functions here that says like, do I have a new high? And it like measures against the last 10 minutes. Do I have a new low? Is this point a new low? And you basically just like catalog that, right? And then you have this like pool of inflection points. You keep dropping them off, the old one adding a new one to the stack, right? And then as you kind of get it in, you just pass in all those inflection points and do like a function. Here's my 20 inflection points, and then that gives you back a pattern, right? And you can say like, okay, so for XRB to BTC, our function returned that it's currently this pattern, and this is how it matched out. Okay. Oh no, I need it on like maybe a 5 second circle, but I guess like a lot of the other stuff only has to kick in after the pattern has been identified. There's only really like 20 pairings you're doing. So and I guess like all the users can share the same patterns, right? Like the API could like you basically set up like a cron job API to then like pass out like to do all the calculations, which would probably be more expensive, and not pass that to the user. Just pass the user like data that's set like from a private API. It says like these are the patterns you're hitting. Do you think that that would be more realistic from a processing standpoint? Yeah, I didn't understand that solution you just provided. Okay, so I'm back here. It'll switch just a sec. I mean, I guess I'm wondering about the processing power behind this. Maybe you can kind of. I guess that's like my last question. So you seem to think that this is like a 5 minute cron job, and that actually kind of shocks me. Because like in my mind, like so if I kind of go back to the chart here, and let's say I'm doing this on a 1 minute chart, I'm technically only getting updates like every minute here. Each one of these candles is a minute. So it has a minute to determine. Yeah, but like even if I started with one, that would be fine, right? Like you could say like, oh, I'm looking at this. Sorry, go ahead. What? Yeah, but like you could kind of queue things up too, because like as we see here, like my basically my line of resistance here hasn't changed in the past 10 minutes. So it's like constantly getting new points in right here. It could be getting a point here. And it would be like, well, on the 1 hour horizon, has my inflection point or has my line of resistance actually changed? No, and it could basically like discard that data, right? Because at a very basic starting point, we're just looking for these tops, right? If it breaks through a top, you generally have a breakout. hmm This is 1 minute, but like yeah, you could do 10 minute, but you would just determine that ahead of time based on like what time periods you want to trade on, right? That would just be like a system setting. You don't have to determine that ahead of time, in my opinion. And you could try different things out and figure out like what's most profitable, right? But right. Yeah, I agree. I think like a 5 or 10 minute horizon though might be more what I'm looking for. But I think a 5 or 10 minute horizon should be plenty of time for the basically. This is 10 minute right now, and you can see on the bottom here the time adjust. I mean, this might take a second. Indicators are a little different. The indicators here are the bottom things. Indicators are at the moment. This is what's happening. You can also look at historical. Patterns are more useful as a means of entering the market. The indicators then help tell you when you should exit, basically, in my opinion. Yeah, I mean, you can also use the indicators to help you buy, but since I'm so pattern driven, like I'll just blindly buy in the pattern most of the time, and then the indicators tell me basically like, if the RSI line gets above 70 here, that's really high, and generally like, or when the RSI line, so see the RSI line went below 30 here, this would have been a really good indicator that we should have bought here. And what happened to the price here? It immediately skyrocketed up, right? The MACD line also crossed right here, and that would have been another really good indicator that we should have bought as well, right? Okay. Okay, so let's take this spot here. What would happen here? Okay, just give a sec. Yeah, yeah, there, yeah. I've had it sitting like this for like 5 seconds. God, I fucking hate this YouTube delay. Yes. Yeah. Right. But it would just be like, but it knows where it is in terms of relative time, though, right? So like, I don't understand why it need, yeah, I understand why it would need to evaluate against the other 6 points, right? But like each new point should just be able to calculate relative to its previous points for the given timeline that you pick, right? Where am I relative to these previous points? Mm-hmm. Yeah, but you could discard data, right, that is not useful, right? Okay. But yeah, each time, basically each time you get a new data point, you have to run some sort of analysis on that data point, determine what its value is and whether or not you need to discard it, right? So the time basically for the system to run is basically how quickly can you have it evaluate each new data point you give it, right? What is that time delay? Right. Right, but my breakout like location is still here though. Right? Like even if I get a big like tail down here, like that's fine. It's bearish. I'm not betting on it. Um, and like the breakout, like maybe so this comes down here like this. We move our 10-minute timeline to here now. Now it's disregarding all this previous data. There's gonna be a little bit of delay here, but I'm trying to basically iron out the example you're giving me here. And then our new high point would move to like here. Now we could keep historical breakout points, right? But like basically these lines of support and resistance are constantly moving, right? So like let's say the market kind of does this. Right. So like the old data points no longer matter. It would evaluate hopefully that we're in a bearish market we don't want to buy, and that our high point over this time period was like here, let's say. So I think I could be wrong. Maybe I'm missing something here. But by just dropping out the old data, right? Like it's a finite number of data points over each 10-minute timeline, right? Or whatever time horizon you pick. You know, let's say up to like 1,000 data points. Maybe you have 1,000 candles, right? That you're evaluating. 1,000 data points did not seem like an absurd amount of data to me in my mind to like evaluate in real time. Let's say I have 20 coins, right? So I'm doing like 20,000 data points a minute. Is that an insane number of calculations? You don't think that that's an insanely high number? Or you do think it's higher? I don't know. Okay. So I understand like the initial concern you basically had about the number of calculations, but after talking a little bit more with me, do you think that maybe that's a solvable problem? Well, it seems you have the resources, right? Like I'm funding this myself, so yeah, it is limited, but right. You know, I agree. And then like my idea is that like basically push the expenses to the users as well. Um, But yeah, that's really handy to hear that you think that maybe the processing would be feasible. That was a major concern I had too, but I just kind of pushed forward with the understanding that I could always simplify, right? Because right now what I'm doing is just so lo-fi, and it's more than what most people are doing on the market, but like manually setting these triggers for myself, manually like entering the market. This should be automated, right? Like some of the higher level like stuff that you were talking about, yeah, I think that that could get me like another 4 or 5% like return on investment. But I think that there's like a lot of low hanging fruit before I even get to that point where that's necessary, if that makes sense. So I want to finish building the market features, but I think I'll take your advice and I'll start looking at these inflection points. I think that that's basically solvable. Like each data point that comes in, I just need to determine, what like right functions basically determines like what is its value relative to the previous data set, and kind of just start that way. Are there any maybe terms or any other like frameworks or just kind of like anything you tell me to go research basically right now? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay, that's awesome. Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, yeah. I wrote this all down. Um, no, I think that this is I can probably solve this in about a week, week and a half. So um, yeah, it's kind of cool though. You can see like so the really cool thing about Bitcoin trading that doesn't exist on the stock market is everything is occurring in real time. So it's very quick, right? Like when you place an order on the stock market, right? It has to go to a market maker. Someone actually has to manually place that order on the market itself. But with this, like I know that there are so many other crypto trading bots out there, but like I think with my strategy, I'm not looking for super greed. I'm just looking to automate like what I do every day anyway. So I don't know. That was my idea, like why this idea might be viable as like an actual project that can compete, given how steep the competition is out there. Hmm. Yeah, but that's great because basically, like, eventually I can program a backdoor that gives me like a slight second advantage, have it buy ahead of time, and then basically you create like a market pump and dump through your tool. But you're betting on market pumps. So like your users might not realize 100% of the profit available in that pump, but you're not only cannibalizing your own users basically, right? You're cannibalizing like the market itself. So you're basically like winning off anonymous people that aren't using your tool, right? But you give everyone that has the tool the advantage to like, right, create this self-fulfilling prophecy as well. The price is going to go up. We're all going to ride that price up together. That type of thing. But also it'll be adjustable, right? You could say I only want to trade on 10-minute timelines, right? So everyone could potentially use the bot in its own kind of way. Like customability is like a big thing, I think, for this bot. And the bot feature is almost like secondary. I think like the ability to have, basically the ability to do real-time decisions based on a current market buy order, like whatever price you bought against the relative price. That should be a lot easier to code in. And then you could basically have both a limit and a stop limit. So protect against losses and also realize gains simultaneously without actually having to add an order to the order book. That doesn't exist as I understand it on the market right now. And to me, like, that's the number one thing that like that solves so many problems. Yeah, that feature alone, I think, sells this whole piece of software. And then like all these other features I'm talking about, like I'm continuing to work on. I think they'll be really useful. Like, it could. Oh, it's people doing day trading right in real time. I have like a whole. I have a Facebook community basically, or like my business partner, with like a couple hundred people, and these people are all doing crypto day trading. So they're all prime candidates to use this tool. Because like all of the frustrations I've seen, everyone else has. Just like it seems like everyone's just too lazy to fix these problems, or they're not technical. I'm so used to like dealing with people. Like I'm in Silicon Valley right now, and I've just been doing tech for like the past 10 years. So anytime I see a problem, I'm so used to being around engineers. Everyone's like, "Oh, we'll just automate or fix this." But I'm now dealing with a ton of people that don't have that attitude. So no one else has taken the step to solving this, as far as I can tell. Or they keep it super like everyone's made so much money in the alt trading market too that there's like a lot of secrecy. No one's like really released something like this, as far as I can tell. Or I just haven't found it. Maybe this thing exists, but I just haven't found it. The internet's a big place, right? So yeah, kind of all those things together, I think that there's value. Sorry. What? Oh yeah, me too. I've been getting up early for the trade stuff, but yeah, I mean, dude, thanks so much for your kind of insight tonight. I mean, I'll definitely be, if it's cool, like hitting you up with a few more questions once I kind of get the next feature built out. Uh, no, 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 no. Yeah, so engineer is like next level nerdy. I would not say I'm quite at that level, but I would say I'm above a developer in that like I don't do like straight up front end web. Like basically my background is mobile, like iOS. Like I was starting at iOS 5, so it was actually like manual memory management and shit like that back then. So yeah, basically the advantage of learning iOS, that was my first and only stack I really mastered. Back in the day, like the iPhone was kind of like a really, really shitty computer. So you had to worry about all these dumb like processor problems, and like you had to do like multi-threading yourself, and like I manually like interacted with a SQL database that like lives on the phone. There's like an abstraction, like everything's libraries basically that you just plug and play. But like a lot of the underlying architecture, like I'm not just like, oh, HTML CSS basic bitch, like um, for example, like this AI was really shitty. It was just like all I just ran it on a singleton, and it was just like different path. I guess maybe the term is paths. So like it would come to a decision matrix basically, and it'd be like, should I do this thing or this thing? It was just like if else statements ultimately. But I basically built a game that was like two steps up from tic-tac-toe, where the computer would basically determine its strategy in real time, and like you could play against the computer. So I have like a little bit of experience with automation. I'm like really, really basic at it, but yeah, that's kind of where I stand. And then I would say like from my engineering background, I understand how to interact with engineers and like what is viable and what isn't. So mhm. Yeah, I've done like enterprise level software before. Like my last job, we had an analytics program basically that would like in real time pull all the data the user was doing. So my clients were like McDonald's, United, like some of the bigger names on the list. And for McDonald's, basically, like I built their mobile ordering system. So and I also added all the tracking. So I can now, I think I still probably even have access to the UI. I could go in, let's say you have the McDonald's app on your phone. I can find your name, where you are in the world, what you ordered last. I could probably, like, yeah. The one thing I don't have access to is credit card information because they store that on on a separate API. But I actually like, managed to hack that myself, so technically I do have access to McDonald's. Like, uh, yeah. Yeah. But like basically McDonald's knows where you're going at all times if you have that app on your phone. Like it's really crazy. And that's just kind of like an example. So pulling well, you think you control that, but there's backdoors you could write that keep it alive basically and like there's a lot of like policies Apple has, but like basically what happens is that they manually review code and they also have an automated system that works for this. I actually have friends at Apple, so I've talked to them about like how the app review process works. And basically if your app is enterprise level and big enough, what I figured out is you can basically trick Apple because like no one's gonna sit down and read like 20,000 lines of code. So as long as you provide like abstractions, you can basically like hide code that violates their terms of service and like a lot of the times it just won't get picked up. Like Uber, that was pretty blatant though. That was like a pretty blatant disregard for like the terms of service, and that's why they got caught. But what you can do is like, for example, one of the big things is you're never supposed to be able to change an app once you deploy it to the App Store in real time, right? That's a complete no-no. But I know for what? Yeah. So like my set of software was integrated into probably 50 Fortune 500s. We had like you know, I don't want to like it was a large number, right? And that was just our software. There's tons of other like any major brand has analytics in their mobile app now. Our software allowed us through JavaScript function calls to change any aspect of the application we wanted to in real time. Yeah. Complete violation. I swear to God. Yeah, it was super tricky. I'll actually explain this. Don't fuck me here, Vedsy. But I'll explain to you really quickly, just so I can like wow your mind for a sec here. So it was a pure inflection on. So basically, what they did is they wrote a framework. Every time there was an injection level on every method call, and it would actually trigger into like a separate framework. So you could basically write like when that method would occur in Swift, you could basically see that method evaluating and insert code that you wanted in real time. And the way which you could actually deploy additional code in real time is it was basically a mirror to a JavaScript layer. And that JavaScript layer was accessible on the app itself because the app would launch as soon as you open the app a hidden web view that you couldn't see. It was 0000. But as you know, with any Safari app, there's a console, right? You have access to console, and you also can like through that web app pass in function calls, right? So yeah, and you could deploy that remotely because this web view is loading every time, so you can interact with that web view in real time. Yeah, but like, yeah, exactly. But if you know that thing exists, it like creates a complete backdoor into the app, right? Because you need like you need web views in apps. That's like a thing. So you can't just delete that functionality. And the way Safari's built, like there's just no sandboxing there, right? Or like compartmentalization. So yeah, I mean, I'm sure that backdoor will get fixed at some point, but you know, writing a mirror to Swift is not like an easy thing to do either. Oh, years, yeah, years. Because like Apple's really bad about deleting things, and in years, who gives a shit, right? Like that's in tech, you always do things and you beg permission or say you're sorry later, right? You just do things first, make the money, and then worry about it later. It seems to be how tech works, right? So yeah. Are you entertained, Betsy? Sketchy. Wow. Oh wow, you're fucking huge. What company? Never heard of this. Oh, I'm immediately doing that. You're based in New York City? Ann Arbor. Oh, but you're on the East Coast, right? You're in New York? Oh, really? Oh, you're still EST though, even though you're Michigan. What? That's fucking nuts. Oh man. All right. Well, that's really cool, man. I mean, it's late. Let's kind of wrap up here, but thank you again for all the advice. I'm definitely gonna be. I'm gonna say it again, but I'm definitely gonna be hitting you up for a little bit more. I'm sure. It was super handy, and hopefully you